open. Opportunities are coming to address those. Subsequently, the issue of logistics in handling some of these online kinds of work functions also need to be properly addressed. But nonetheless, I think we have made some progress in that direction, and we face the challenges, and it's not all of these things which require heavy logistics, and so we are able to continue to go in that area as well.
Okay, well, Ian Arkwell, nice to be speaking to you again. It's always good to have you on the programme, talking to us there from Ghana. And a lot of what we've been talking about in this programme might seem quite rosy, whether it's opportunities in developing countries or indeed for the great things that we're supposed to be enjoying here in the developed West, so-called. So far, so rosy, you might say. But what about this landmark 25th anniversary? How about its timing, given that it falls amid all these rows over surveillance and censorship and the revelations from the whistleblower Ed Snowden? Snooping certainly wasn't a function that those scientists at CERN had in mind when they pored over those early blueprints of the web. Tim Berners-Lee again.
The web itself should be something you and I can use to communicate and just feel that you and I are communicating without either somebody stopping us or the feeling that we know somebody's looking over our shoulder. So people of the world have to be constantly looking out for it. Are we going to continue on the road just to allow the government to do more and more and more control, more and more surveillance, or are we going to set up a bunch of values? Are we going to set up something like a Magna Carta for the World Wide Web and to say, actually, now it's so important, it's so much part of our lives that it becomes on a level with human rights.
Tim Berners-Lee there. And so, Bill, obviously it's a conversation that we've had a lot in recent weeks or months. The question is, can these be reconciled? We want the web to be free, but at the same time we probably need certain controls.
The technology in itself doesn't dictate and determine how it's used. The web was built to be open, and as Tim said there, we want an open platform that carries a price. And the price is a constant vigilance in all different areas of it. It's not just something we put out there and then say, okay, now the web's there, we just live with it. The fact is we have to pay attention. It's a bit like democracy. Democracy isn't something you do and then forget about. Well, an open web isn't just something you do and then forget about. So you then need to balance individual cases, individual freedoms, to see how they will work on this open platform.
And Selena Godden, to finish with you, and it's a simple one really, what would you say has been the biggest surprise for you then in these years that you've been on the web? I know you weren't necessarily an early adopter, but things must have come along on the way, behind the internet as it were, that might have taken you aback.
Oh, well, obviously crowdfunding and the way we publish books and the way that people can share poetry and music, I think it's just revolutionised that. I think it's just wonderful that we can just hear so much music and so many different voices now.
Okay, well, Selena Godden, thank you very much indeed for that, and of course to Bill Thompson as ever. We're back with a regular programme. I'm sure we're talking about lots of stuff related to the web, because you can't exactly not on the technology programme that is called Click, when it is produced by Colin Grant and presented by me, Gareth Mitchell. Thanks for listening and goodbye.
The BBC World Service. We have the headlines.
Malaysia Airlines flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing disappeared.
But we go further.
I spent 3 hours this morning on board of Vietnam's rescue airplane.
Telling it how it is.
The Crimean Parliament was seized by armed men.
Giving people a voice.
We are not feeling safe.
The BBC World Service. Live a story. With more journalists and more places around the world, the BBC World Service brings you live news as it happens, 24 hours a day, every day.
You're with the BBC World Service.
Our network of correspondents brings stories to life on radio, online and on your mobile. The world's radio station, Singapore 88.9 FM. Welcome to Newsday from the BBC World Service. Nuala McGovern and Alan Kasuja with you.
It's 5 a.m. in London and 1 in Brazil. We'll go to Rio, where violent protests are broken out in the popular Copacabana district, 50 days ahead of the World Cup.
And in Ukraine, the acting president calls for action against pro-Russian activists. We're going live to Kiev.
And we'll be speaking to a father who is pleading with the UK government to help him bring his child home from Syria. He's been traumatised by the scenes he's seen, dead bodies, mutilated bodies. It's become a daily sort of occurrence over the last 6 months.
And newspapers across the world react to the sacking of Manchester United manager David Moyes. London's Financial Times headline, Moyes caught offside by his inability to master Manchester United PR game. We're going to get more reaction and a bit of speculation on who might take the job now. That's all after the latest world news.
BBC News with Charles Carroll. Violent protests have broken out in the Brazilian city of Rio de Janeiro, less than 2 months before it hosts the Football World Cup. Wira Davis reports from Rio.
The trouble started after the death of a 26-year-old local man named as Douglas Rafael da Silva, a professional dancer. According to his family, his body was covered in wounds, and they accused local police of beating him to death. Huge crowds demanding an explanation for the death gathered near the entrance to the favela, which is just a stone's throw from Rio's famous beaches and tourist hotspots.
President Obama is due to arrive in Japan today for the start of a week-long tour of Asian countries. Mr. Obama is hoping to reach a deal to open Japan's markets to American products. China is likely to dominate the agenda. Rupert Wingfield-Hayes reports from Tokyo.
Sino-Japanese ties are in their worst state in 40 years. Beijing is aggressively pushing territorial claims in the East China Sea. And up to now, President Obama's support for Japan has appeared tepid. Prime Minister Abe now wants an explicit statement of US military support for Japan. For President Obama, it will be a delicate balancing act. Japan is his most important Asian ally. But Prime Minister Abe is also a part of the problem. His views on World War II history have poisoned relations, not just with China, but also with South Korea.
In South Korea, rescue teams are continuing to recover bodies from the submerged hull of the passenger ferry that capsized and sank a week ago. The official number of dead has risen above 150, as divers have been able to access cabins on the third and fourth decks of the vessel. Jonathan Head reports from the island of Jindo.
The police boats come and go here, bringing back the ferry's victims in steadily rising numbers. Cries of grief from the tents where they're laid for identification, a reminder of the personal tragedies behind each one. In the town of Ansan, where most of the victims went to school, the local government has organised a memorial where anyone can come to pay their respects to those who died in the disaster. The authorities are now preparing to lift the sunken hull of the ship to the sea's surface, but they can't do that until all the families agree. And for some of those who've yet to recover the bodies of their children, this is still a difficult decision to make.
The Vatican has dismissed allegations that Pope John Paul II, whom it will declare a saint on Sunday, turned a blind eye towards one of the Catholic Church's most damaging sexual abuse scandals. A spokesman said there was no evidence linking John Paul personally with the case of a Mexican priest who founded a Catholic religious order and was eventually exposed as a serial molester of teenage boys. The priest, Maciel Maciel, was for many years a welcome visitor at the Vatican under the late Pope. World news from the BBC. About 150 American soldiers are due to arrive in Poland today as part of a 600-strong deployment that Washington says is a show of force for its NATO allies in the region. The other troops are being sent to 3 Baltic countries which border Russia. David Willis reports.
The Pentagon has announced it's sending a total of around 600 troops to Poland, as well as the Baltic states Estonia, Lithuania and Latvia, which share a border with Russia. The troops will engage in training exercises as part of an effort to reassure America's allies in Eastern Europe that the US has their back. But with tens of thousands of Russian troops camped out on the other side of the border, the deployment may not prove greatly reassuring.
Brunei says it has postponed the introduction of a range of harsh Islamic criminal punishments that were due to begin on Tuesday. An official told Brunei media that the Sharia penalties, which include flogging, the severing of limbs and stoning, would take effect in the very near future. The government is thought to have delayed the introduction of the new code until Brunei's ruler returns from a trip abroad. Environmental campaigners in Canada have criticised a decision by the government there to downgrade the status of the North Pacific humpback whale from a threatened species to one of special concern. Julian Boner reports.
The decision to reclassify the humpbacks means their habitat off Canada's west coast is no longer legally protected. According to environmental groups, it removes a major obstacle to the proposed Northern Gateway pipeline project, which would bring crude oil to the northwestern province of British Columbia. They say the resulting tanker traffic in the area would pose a danger to whales and other species. The government in Ottawa has denied the decision is related to the pipeline.
Julian Boner, BBC News.
Many thanks to Charles. More news on our website, bbcnews.com. Hello and welcome to Newsday with Roland McGovern and Harlan Kosricha.
Well, bad news continues to come out of Syria, and one figure that I think illustrates it is that more than 2.7 million Syrians are living as refugees in neighbouring countries. A little earlier I got to speak to a father who's a British Syrian, and he is desperately trying to get his son and ex-wife out of Daraa in Syria and to the UK. Do stay with us to hear his story.
A big talking point, and it's been trending all across social media. It happened that David Moyes is no longer the manager of Manchester United, and we'll bring you all the reaction. Mohamed Kainesi on BBC Africa Facebook says Moyes is just a scapegoat. I see nothing wrong with him, but he really tried his best. If I have to cast blame, I'll cast it on the players. Whatever your thoughts are. Our hashtag on Twitter is BBC News Day. Now to Brazil to talk more about the violent protests in Rio de Janeiro's Landmark Beach district of Copacabana. The protest was sparked off by the death of a young man over the weekend, and George Powell is a freelance journalist in Rio, and he told us what he saw.
I was down in between Pavãozinho and Copacabana. Pavão's a little favela up in the hills behind Copacabana, one of the most touristy spots in Rio. Everything sort of kicked off at around 6 this evening, so I was there at around 7, and the police had completely cordoned off the sort of two big main streets that at this time would usually be full of traffic and people, and they're celebrating St. George's Day tomorrow, so the streets would normally have been crowded, full of people outside. The demonstrators gathered at the bottom of the main entrance to the favela, set fire to several cars, also on the street up into the favela, made fairly small barricades with rubbish bins and trash and signposts that they'd managed to pull over, pile up and set fire to. Speaking to people down there, they were unable to get up to their homes because police had cordoned it off, and also there were fires burning on the streets leading up to the favela.
And that is freelance journalist George Powell. Well, to find out more about the level of violence, I got to speak to the BBC's Wira Davis in Rio.
It happens 400 metres away from my house. I live in the south zone, the beach zone in Rio, and all of this happened within a stone's throw from those famous beaches of Copacabana, Apurador and Ipanema, which is a worrying sign on one aspect, because of course Brazil is preparing to host some pretty big global events. But I think deeper down it's also worrying because these are parts of Rio de Janeiro, these favelas, these shanty towns that in recent years have been subject to the so-called pacification program. That's where the police have gone in, they've established a police presence, and they've driven out to an extent the drugs gangs that used to run the favelas, and they've made Rio City Centre a much more habitable, much more friendly, and as our previous voice said, some of these are even on the tourist trail now. And the danger is that not just in this favela, but in other favelas, the drugs gangs are starting to move back in. The police have lost control of some of these areas, including this one right in the middle of Rio, and there's now an ongoing turf war again between the authorities and the criminals. The problem for the police is that they often overreact. 5 people in Brazil die every day at the hands of the police. The police are incredibly violent, and if the police have killed this young man, however they did that, who was not a member of a gang, then it of course throws down the gauntlet, and the reaction from the favela residents is predictable.
What do you think has changed, Wira, to start this kind of flashpoint again? You mentioned there that it was the pacification zones that seem to be gaining traction, but something seems to have changed.
It's a good point. I mean, it's been going on for about 6 months, maybe less than a year. And what has happened, according to analysts, when I've visited some of these favelas, is that the gangs have started to reorganise, because what happened under the pacification programs that they were pushed out into other areas, and this becomes a turf war. And they see there are pickings to be made. There's still a very big demand for crack cocaine in particular. Brazil is the world's biggest consumer gangs know that they can get into the favelas and they can make a lot of money. So even in those areas that have been pacified, to use the police term, the gangs have moved back in again. So this turf war has started all over again at a particularly inopportune moment.
That's where Dave is reporting from Rio. The time there is 1:10 in the morning.
Let's now go to Ukraine. The operation to remove pro-Russian militants who have taken over public buildings is back on. The decision was announced by the interim president, and it came after the discovery of tortured bodies of 2 men. The Pentagon has also announced that it's sending 600 troops to Poland and the Baltics as a show of support for its NATO allies in the region. And the move came, of course, as the US Vice President Joe Biden ended a 2-day visit to Kiev with a call again for Moscow to withdraw its troops from Ukraine's border. And joining us on the line now from Kiev is Christopher Miller, who is an editor of the Kiev Post. Great to have you on Newsday, Christopher. How is your paper covering this story this morning?
Well, we're certainly looking forward. As you said, Biden just left. The acting president has resumed the anti-terrorist operation. We're waiting to see today what new messages the government will have for us and what exactly the resuming of this anti-terrorist operation means. Several days ago when they implemented this operation, it did not go very well. It was actually rather humiliating and demoralizing for a lot of the troops there, who saw their armored vehicles, their weapons seized from the pro-Russian protesters over in eastern Ukraine. So it's difficult to say right now what exactly is going to happen in this operation and whether or not it will be successful. Certainly, it could heighten tensions between Ukraine and Russia, and we're expecting to see messages from both the Ukrainian authorities today, but also the Russian authorities.
And when you say heightened tensions between Ukraine and Russia, I wonder if you're hearing any voices at all about people who are concerned that Ukraine might not have the capacity to counter Russia should it become a full-scale confrontation.
Certainly, there are people that believe that this is the case. I think that my sources and the people that we've been speaking to in Ukraine's military and security services have also voiced this concern to us. Several of them have asked the government to urge the U.S., for example, to arm the military. Right now, they are the U.S. military that is providing non-lethal aid to Ukraine. But they would actually like to see here several in the military here would like to actually have the U.S. send arms here to better defend eastern Ukraine should Russia invade on a full scale.
Great talking to you, Christopher Miller, editor of the Kiev Post. Thank you for bringing us up to speed with what's happening in Ukraine.
Just seeing one headline updated at bbcnews.com that the US Secretary of State has warned of further sanctions on Russia if it does not de-escalate tensions in Ukraine. That apparently a phone call with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. You can read more on our website. Listen to Newsday. Alan and Nuala with you. We're going to be going to Pakistan, where the much-awaited day has finally arrived. What is it? The country is getting 3G mobile phone network. Auctions for the 3G and 4G licenses are to be held today. We're going to get more on that. It's going to be in about 10 minutes time. But now, back to the story. Dominating headlines, probably dominating some mobile phones as well, if I'm honest. The sacking of Manchester United manager David Moyes. On our sports desk today is Sanjeev Shetty.
Hi there, yes, David Moyes sacked as Manchester United manager after less than a year in charge. He was, of course, selected, hand-picked by the man he came after, Sir Alex Ferguson, but after 10 months or so, it seems that enough is enough. Let's hear now some of the reaction to the sacking of David Moyes.
It's been heartbreaking, and I think that any change right now is probably going to be considered a good one, but it's down to the next manager to decide what he wants to do with the team, and hopefully start challenging for this again.
Very disappointed, because what I think is Moyes is actually a footballing genius. I think he should be given a second chance. Definitely Rome is not built in a day, so how can Manchester United be rebuilt in one season, right? I think definitely, as what Ferguson mentioned, he should be given at least 5 seasons of time.
I feel very, very sad and angry at the same time.
So some of the reaction that's there while I was listening to them, I was clicking on That's David Moyes and Manchester United. In numbers, it has a graph going from 1946 right through to 2014. Football fanatics are going to love that one. But tell me, Sanjay, who are the main contenders that might take over?
Do you know what, Neil, I was just thinking about this because I've been telling you all night that Louis van Gaal, the Dutch coach...
Have you changed your mind?
No, well, there's some evidence here that suggests to me I might be wrong and some of us might be in the wrong on this. The Daily Telegraph, the British newspaper, seemed to have a hotline to Manchester United because they were the people who a year ago broke the news that Sir Alex Ferguson was going to step down. A day and a half ago or so, they were the people who were on the news that David Moyes looked like he was going to get sacked. And on the front page of their sports section today, the man that they believe is the favoured person to succeed David Moyes is Carlo Ancelotti, the former Paris Saint-Germain, Chelsea and Milan coach, currently the head coach at Real Madrid. And he's the man that apparently they're keen to. He's got a great pedigree. He's won the Champions League, he's won leagues in 3 different countries. He deals with players effortlessly, he never seems to have any problems, and he could do a job very quickly. The only thing, of course, is he's at Real Madrid. They're currently going for a treble of the domestic cup, the Champions League and the League. But there has been tension between him and his president, Florentino Perez, namely that up until about a week ago he wasn't actually going to invite the president to his wedding. But he has now, apparently. But watch this space, because Carlo is definitely a man who, if you need him, he can come in, he can do a job for you.
I guess anybody who's good at their job will probably be employed, so there will be some of these hiccups. Just you mentioned the Telegraph there. I am seeing an article by Mark Ogden who says Ferguson to be the kingmaker once again. So more to talk on that, but Sanjeev, you had some other headlines for us too.
Yes, that's right. Chelsea and Atletico Madrid playing out a 0-0 draw at the Vicente Calderon Stadium in the first leg of their European Champions League semi-final. Chelsea will start next week's second leg in London without at least 4 first-team regulars, and that includes their captain John Terry. And ahead of the second semi-final, that's later tonight in Wednesday, that is, between Real Madrid and Bayern Munich, also in Madrid, Pep Guardiola, the head coach of the German champions, has denied that he's interested in taking the vacant job of Manchester United manager, I should add. So we can probably rule him out for at least 2 years because he's got a 3-year contract. But I do know that he is keen one day to be Manchester United manager.
He can help. Let's see what happens. Thanks very much, Sanjeev.
Stay with us if you can, and let's look at another story that we've been keeping an eye on, and you may have had it in our bulletins, that the legacy of Pope John Paul II will be declared a saint on Sundays coming under fire. The Huffington Post has an editorial by a professor of canon law about how the Pope failed to grasp the severity of the priestly pedophilia crisis until very late in his tenure, and this has created a very big and real flaw in the speed up to the sainthood process. Now, and in one of the stories in the Deutsche Welle online, they have the headline, Vatican rejects accusations against Pope John Paul II ahead of canonization. They say that in less than a week before John Paul II is to be declared a saint, critics want answers about an abuse scandal involving an order of priests that he had championed for years.
I'd be surprised if that goes ahead. In some of the papers, they actually have the woman that say she had a miracle from Pope John Paul II, that her brain aneurysm was cured. She's in a lot of the papers this morning as well. You are listening to Newsday, and you're listening to Newsday from the BBC World Service. Well, now let's turn our attention to Syria. Over 800 refugees have crossed into Jordan in the last 48 hours. This follows the announcement of the Turkish Prime Minister Erdogan, that his country has received 1 million Syrians. Just think about that, 1 million in Turkey, 800 over the border into Jordan in the last 48 hours. Now, many Syrians are still trapped in the war-torn country. They're not able to leave, perhaps because of bureaucratic or other hurdles. Let's hear the story of one British Syrian man. His name is Wael Zain. He is trying to get his young son, Muad, and his ex-wife out of Daraa in Syria. And he came into the studio to tell me exactly what he has been trying to do. He does mention William Hague in our discussion, who is the British Foreign Secretary. Let's take a listen.
I've lived all my life in the UK. I came here when I was 1, with my parents, originally Syrian.
Whereabouts?
Outskirts of Dera, near the Jordan border. I got married in 2007 to a Syrian national, and Moyad was born in 2008. We separated beginning of 2010, and subsequently she travelled back to Syria with me because she was 2 years old.
So Moyad was born here?
Yeah, he was born here. Yeah, she returned to her family within coming back when he's near enough school age. She went around 3 months before the crisis broke out in Syria. She had an indefinite leave to remain in the UK.
Married, she would have then become naturalised.
Yeah, but she was entitled to stay in the UK until August 2015.